you? Okay. Hi, everyone. It's my great pleasure to have with me today Professor Peter Krapp, who's a professor in the Department of Film and Media Studies in the School of Humanities. Hi, Peter.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for accepting this invitation. So, Peter, tell us what recipes you're showing us today.
Well, I thought that I'm going to make a meal out of two dishes. To start, I'm going to make a German onion tart, and then I'm going to have a main course that is kale and pork. It sounds
Wow.
very simple, and they're actually both pretty simple dishes. But I thought that there might be a nice combination. Although, truth be told, they're probably not very likely to be served together if you're at a typical German restaurant or house, because one of the dishes, the onion tart, is much more characteristic of the south and southwest of Germany. And the other one, the kale and pork dish, is actually much more typical of the northern areas of Germany. Like a lot of nation states, Germany is a patchwork of different regions and different accents and different cuisines. And of course, recipes don't respect borders either. So the German onion tart is something that you can also find in Alsace in France. You can find it across the border into Austria, into Switzerland. Um, so, there are two regional specialties that I both like, and I like cooking. So I thought I'd try combining those two dishes.
Wonderful. So, um, can you tell us a little bit more about the reasons for your choice? Is it comfort food in a sense, or you have family memories, or whatever you would like to share with us?
Well, so German cuisine might not be the most famous cuisine in the world. I'm not going to tell jokes about French or Italian or the famous exports of cuisines. But I am a product of a complicated story. I was born in Switzerland, but my parents are from Austria, and I grew up in Germany. So three countries divided by the same language.
Mhm.
And I went to graduate school, PhD in Constance, which is right on the border between Austria and Germany, out Switzerland. So I have some family ties and some ties of my own to that southern region, which produces wine, actually pretty good wine, less well known for export. I guess they drink most of their own product. And for that region, an onion tart is a typical accompaniment. So, it's comfort food in that sense that, let's say you're a student, you go out, it's cheap, it's filling, it's can be spicy. It has sufficient fat to soak up some of the alcohol that you consume. So that's the story of the onion tart. And the other dish I've actually only discovered a little bit later in life. Um, Californians tend to associate kale with eating healthy or a crunchy salad or whatever, but this is actually a boiled kale,
Mhm.
and it's quite a salty dish because you use smoked salted piece of pork to make the broth. So that's a very typical northern dish. And my parents, coming from Vienna, did not actually venture very far north. So I had to discover that part of the German-speaking culture for myself later in life. But I really like it. I find that, especially for cold weather, and it's all relative. It's not that cold here in California, but it is cold in Germany in the winter. And it's a very typical dish that you can find all across northern Germany um, at the market. If you go across the marketplace, the square, there'll be somebody with a steaming pot of kale, green kale, grünkohl, and pork or sausages or both served with it. Now, the typical, if you want to be correct, the typical side dish for the kale and pork would be boiled potatoes.
Yes.
But since we already have the onion tart to start, I figured, I don't have to show anybody how to boil a potato. Uh, we'll leave that off.
That's great. And what do you typically drink with these dishes? More beer? I mean, it's more on the side of beer or wine, or what would you recommend?
I think wine. I'm not a big beer drinker. Beer would work certainly with the kale and pork because, like I said, it comes out quite salty. But with the onion tart, certainly, typically a young wine, something inexpensive that you get in a tavern, in a student pub, whatever. And for the kale and pork, you could continue with that wine. I think it would not be inappropriate. Although, of course, northern Germany doesn't grow a lot of its own wine. Maybe with global warming, the wine growing regions will keep creeping further north. But
Yes, yes,
uh,
indeed.
yeah, I mean,
Scary, but it might be one of the consequences.
they're both dishes that will help you soak up alcohol if you want to consume alcohol. Now, if we're cooking with a professor and talking to students, we're not encouraging heavy alcohol,
No.
but it does work together.
Yeah, and sometimes, particularly in Germany, in France, and other countries, not so in Italy, but even here, I found very nice ciders. So
Mhm.
sometimes, if we want to just,
Yeah.
make suggestions that students, that we feel comfortable passing on to students, then I would think that maybe cider would be another way of accompanying these dishes. Or what about the tradition of Glühwein in Germany, and this wonderful idea of buying your cup of warm wine with a lot of spices, which is very typical, I think, particularly during the winter around Christmas, but maybe also
Mhm.
beyond Christmas,
All winter
after
long.
Christmas.
There's a fifth season, sort of starts in November and goes through February or March. In some areas, it's also overlapping with Carnival, but it's certainly the cold weather season, and Glühwein goes really well. I myself have, I was lucky. I had a fellowship in Germany in the fall of last year, and I regularly went out to the market, to the square, to have that green kale and pork with sausages and potatoes and maybe a sip of Glühwein, keep you warm. Mulled wine. It's not my favorite drink when I'm in California because I don't feel like I need to have that warming up. But if you're in a cold weather zone, it's certainly a delight. Um,
Yes,
um, I've been
I've
making that onion tart here quite a bit. Important warning, since I'm speaking to an Italian colleague, um, some people will see that and they'll try to say, "Oh, it looks like a pizza." No, it's not a pizza. It's very, very different from a pizza. The dough is, the topping is different. It's a tart, right? It's actually much more of uh, French inflected thing rather than an Italian dish.
Mhm.
Careful with the labeling.
Indeed, indeed. But anyway, I have very fond memories of my 18 months in Heidelberg as an Alexander von Humboldt Fellow several years ago. And I for one, I'm all in favor of German cuisine, of German wine, and also I mean, I've always found the quality of the products used excellent. So maybe they may not be the most elaborate dishes, but the quality of the meat, for instance, has always been uh, extremely good compared to even what you can find in countries that maybe are more renowned for their culinary tradition. But I've always appreciated that aspect of German cuisine, and wonderful wine and wonderful beer, and the traditional blue wine has always been very nice. I mean, I still remember going around the market, the town markets in Heidelberg and towns nearby. So I think, and the other thing that I remember is really maybe also that is also something true of Austria. There's still a tradition of proper cafes, pubs where people go and eat a meal, but may also read a newspaper and a book. And it's a different pace, an altogether different pace of life that I absolutely adore. I don't know what you think about that pace of life here in California. We're always running, running, running. Or right now we are not going to many places, of course, due to COVID, but
Running in
still.
circles. Yeah, I mean, that's the fascination of um, transporting different pieces of cultural heritage. There are places in Southern California where you can get German dishes, German groceries, because there are a lot of German immigrants in the middle of the 19th century who come to Northern California, to Southern California, to naming places like Anaheim, which is a
Mhm.
German uh, word, German origin. But when I'm in California, I don't really miss it. I just thought that if you challenge me to make a meal, I'm not going to make something from places that I have less of a connection to. I'm going to try to present something that I have maybe some stories to tell about. Um, the only other thing that I would say, if I'm honest here, after decades in California, I miss a certain quality of bread. There's
Mhm.
Central European, Middle European cuisine has many different things that I miss, but I don't have to have them when I'm here. There are other things that I really enjoy here. We have an amazing variety of um, Asian food and Mexican
Yeah.
food and so on. I enjoy that, and you don't get that that easily in Europe. But I do miss an old-fashioned bread. And by the way, the onion tart I would typically make with a sourdough, just like I've been making bread at home to find the kind of bread that I want. I started making it myself,
Mhm.
like everybody else in quarantine times and in COVID times. But it doesn't have to be made with sourdough. I think there's a difference in flavor, and it might be a little healthier to do it with sourdough rather than instant yeast. But I enjoy being here. I'm a dual citizen. I can make just as much of a claim to being an American because I've spent more time here now than anywhere else. Um, but these are two dishes that I like from German-speaking areas in Europe, and maybe you'll try them. Maybe you'll enjoy them. Um, Maybe it'll just be a bizarre excursion into things that are outside your normal pattern of consumption, but I think they're good.
Well, I'm going to try them for sure, and I recommend them wholeheartedly to our audience. So, thank you so much, Peter, for being with us and for these recipes and for sharing your memories and experiences around these recipes. And to all of you out there, goodbye and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.